Perfect. So, hello everyone. My name's Leah Vatcher. I work with Food First NL as a regional food animator. Um, so my region is from Holyrood all the way out to Port Blandford, includes all the lovely peninsulas and areas in between. Um, but today we're all here for a community garden lunch and learn, and I'm gonna do a quick 10-minute chat about the Food First NL Community Garden Toolkit and just an overview of what it is and what you can find in it. And then I'm going to hand it over to Albert Legge, who's going to chat about the Whiteway Community Garden, and then followed by Julia Blomquist, who's going to chat about the CBS Community Garden and kind of some of their journey to get the garden started and some of their tips and tricks that they've learned along the way. And then I'm hoping to have around 20 minutes at the end, and we'll be able to do a little Q&A section. But if any questions come up as the presentation goes on, feel free to throw them in the chat. And one of my lovely coworkers, Ashley, is going to keep an eye in there and make sure to flag any for me once we hit the Q&A period. Thank you, Ashley. And then, yeah, if you can also save your questions for the Q&A, put them in the chat, or say them then as well. All right. So, also one more housekeeping thing. These meetings, we do them monthly. Sometimes they're more regional. Sometimes they're bigger ones like this, like province-wide ones. So if you want to learn more about them, you can check out the links here. I'm just gonna see, maybe I can throw them in the chat real quickly. But yeah, we do these. We have a bunch of recorded lunch and learns we've done before. Or you can just learn more about, as I said, I'm a regional food animator. You want to learn more about it, you can check out these links. Oh, did that work? Yeah, I think I got it in there. Perfect. Um, all right, so we're finally gonna happen. So community gardens, and actually, no, we're not gonna happen. I have a poll question. I'm curious what everyone's experience level is as we're heading into the meeting. So this is my first time doing a poll question. Let's see if it works. Okay, hopefully everyone sees that. Um, and so basically, what's your experience with community gardens? I'm curious. Maybe you don't know what a community garden is. Maybe you've heard about them, but you've never actually been involved. Or are you currently or previously been involved in them? Or maybe you're really experienced and have a lot of knowledge around them. So I'm curious where everyone's at. Okay, I'm seeing poll questions coming in or poll answers coming in. Um, all right, I'll give it a minute. Let everyone answer. All right, so it looks like we have a lot of people who have heard about community gardens but haven't been involved. A lot of people who have previously or currently are involved. And then we have 18% of people are feeling like they're experts. So that's awesome. Thank you for joining. And I'm just going to share those results so everyone can see them there. Awesome. Okay, that's good to know heading into the meeting, to just have an idea of where everyone's at. So thank you for doing that. Um, all right, perfect. Gonna pull my notes back up. All right, and off we go. Okay, so everyone said they know what a community garden is, but just in case, they're basically a place you can grow fruits, vegetables, different plants. They're a place to socialize, share your love for gardening, and the food that's grown in them can be shared within community garden members or for yourself, or they can also be shared with local organizations around your community. And they're all a bit different. They all have different sizes and purposes and growing different sorts of things. But the real reason I wanted to have this meeting and chat and have all these experts here, well, one of the reasons is because Food First NL this time last year we revamped our community garden best practice toolkit. So it's one of four best practice toolkits actually. There's also ones on community kitchens, farmers markets, and bulk buying clubs. But this community garden one is the most updated, recently revamped one. And it has a lot of really great information in it, which I'm gonna do a little overview on here now in a second. But I am going to quickly throw the link to the Community Garden Toolkit in the chat. So you folks should be able to click on this link, and I'll show you here. It brings up this web page. So this is kind of like the landing page for the toolkit. And oh wait, no, sorry, I have the wrong, let me see. Oh, okay. Let's see, right here. Here we go. Sorry, this is the landing page for the website. So this is the toolkit. It has all some like background information up here, and then you can click over here, download the toolkit, and you can download a PDF version of the toolkit. Or you can scroll down and navigate it like it's a website. And there's a lot of really lovely pictures and information throughout. So you can click on learn more and just read the whole section, see the pictures, and navigate it by clicking these buttons down here. So that's how you actually get to the toolkit. Now, what's actually in it? So it starts off with an introduction of like what's a community garden, what are the benefits, different types of community gardens, and then it heads into like you're thinking about starting one, here's how you get started and taking some steps for success as you start. So things like how do you form your garden committee? How do you establish some different partnerships? How do you choose the best garden site for you and your community? How do you get some financial supports or like how do you write gardener guidelines so everyone's on the same page with the community garden and knows what to expect when entering it? And after that, we head into like the building and installing the garden. So actually like doing some site prep, building infrastructure, and actually like getting in there and planting the garden. And once you have the garden growing and going, then we head into the sustaining and growing your garden section. And this is all about maintaining it, making sure there's open lines of communication with community gardeners, having safety and security in the garden, even evaluating. So, like having surveys at the beginning and end of the garden season, checking in with the gardeners, seeing is there anywhere we can improve or do better. Um, so that's that section. And then we head on to one of my favorite sections, actually, which is the local gardens in action. And this section of the toolkit is just a bunch of local, like Newfoundland and Labrador community garden inspiration pictures and content. So there's things about like site maps and benches, special features in gardens, just like so you can get some ideas for your own area, for your own community garden. And then the last couple sections, we have an area with some grant resources specific to Newfoundland and Labrador. And then the last part is some quick references and templates. And so that part is this is a list of them, the quick references here. And these are all PDFs. You can open them up. Things like it's a checklist for like, are you actually ready to start your garden? It's some position descriptions for the garden committee. Things like a worksheet for assessing actually like your garden site where you're planning on starting the garden, yearly schedule, all that sort of stuff. So these are just PDFs you can open and quickly view and reference as you need. And then, yeah, the last section is the templates, and these you can take and totally make your own. So they're available as PDFs again, or as Google Documents, and all these links are on the community garden link that I shared there in the chat. And I'll also share these slides out as well after the meeting, so you can get all the links that are in here too. But yeah, you can take the Google Doc and edit it yourself, whether it's the permission for land use form or a gardener's welcome packet or that survey that I mentioned earlier. You can take that and make it your own to suit your own garden. So that's the community garden toolkit. Very like just overview. This is what's in it. If any of that interests you, please feel free to check it out. And I did want to mention just a couple grant opportunities that I've seen over the last couple weeks. So there's a community garden support program, and I should have I'm going to throw these in the chat so people can see and open the links for them. But that one's processed on a first come, first served basis. So I think that's been open since March or April. So I'd suggest getting that one in as soon as you can if you're interested. And then we have Eat Great and Participate. They have some funding available, and community gardens can access that funding if you put in an application and get accepted for that. And then also just the regional wellness coalitions. They're absolutely amazing. I recommend keeping your eye on what they're doing and joining them. I see Tracy here joining us today. Hello, Tracy. She's with the Eastern Regional Wellness Coalition. But yeah, they have lovely e-bulletins and newsletters and Facebook pages and all that amazing stuff, and they offer some funding if you're a member. So highly recommend joining and checking them out. And I think I have one last slide here, which is Food for Sandals local program map. Once again, I'm going to throw the link for this in the chat. But basically, it's a map you can check out, see where community gardens are around you. You can check out local food banks and community freezers, farmers markets, free or low-cost meals as well. And if you go there and you don't see your community garden or program on that map, you can fill out a form and we'll add you as soon as we can. So I think that's it for me. Thank you all for listening. If you have any questions specifically about the toolkit, feel free to send me an email, or if you want to just connect about anything, reach out anytime. Um, but that's it for me. Yeah, I think that's everything. I don't think I forgot anything. And now I'm just going to hand it over to Albert. Albert, did you want to introduce yourself and let me know when you want the slides changed?
Sure. Well, my name is Albert Legge. I'm presently president of our 50 plus club. I'm deputy mayor and I'm on a few other volunteer organizations as well. But one of the things that I'm extremely proud of is the fact that 6 years ago we germinated the idea of starting up a community garden here in Whiteway. We approached the town council and asked them to if they would give us the land, which they did, and then we just went from there. And I'll explain it now as we go. So, next slide, please. This is we got together and we set up benches and we put together the raised beds. These were all volunteers that chipped in. We made them 4 feet wide by 8 feet long, and they were about 15 inches deep. Uh, and this was during COVID, of course. And this was an activity that we were able to take part in without having to wander indoors and risk the possibility of contracting and passing on COVID. So it was an outdoor experience. And this is the some of the raised beds that we had assembled and put them outside. And the next slide, I think, will show us. Yeah, there we go. We had a greenhouse built. We built that one. That one was a 14 and a half by 8 foot greenhouse. And the first year we put in 24 beds. Next slide. And then we added a gate and a sign. And if you zoom in on the sign, that one says Whiteway Community Gardens. We got a local lumber yard to give us the piece of 2 by 8, and the carpenter shop here and the cabinet shop here in Whiteway. They scrolled the lettering in on the sign for us. Next slide. This is the year one. We ended up with a very late start. Actually, it was the first week or second week in July before we got any of the seeds planted in the beds. But things worked out very well and they started to grow. And as you can see, there's a couple of different stages there of the garden growing. Next. And that's another little later one. Oh, this is in year two. In year two, we added another 24 beds, so we were up to 48 for year two. The idea caught on quite well with the residents, and everybody got a little more interested in it, and that was for year two. Next. Oh, this is in Whiteway, by the way. Let's see.
I'm sorry, but where is Whiteway?
Whiteway is, everybody's heard of Dildo?
Yeah.
You leave the Trans-Canada on Route 80 and you come down towards Dildo, and about 15 minutes beyond Dildo is Whiteway.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And again, this is some of our vegetables that grew quite well. By the way, we obtained triple mix from a local company here and filled the beds with triple mix. And if you're wondering how much triple mix it takes, we can fill 8 of those beds with one truckload. Next. And we obtained a grant from the Eastern Regional Wellness Coalition to set up a composting uh, club, a group with our garden. And we set up, and also we put in water supply, and we had a garbage, and we a hand and tool sanitizer station too, uh, because it was COVID. And something I will remark as well, if you look at all the beds, when we put them in there, we made sure that every bed was at least 6 feet or more away from the other beds. So that was all in keeping with the rules that we were following because of COVID. Next slide. Yeah, that's a custom made. That's a compost bin that I put together myself. I had a door there to shovel out from the bottom, and also I lined it with hardware cloth, which was 1/4 inch metal screening and galvanized screening, so that the undesirable animals wouldn't be able to burrow their way in or gnaw their way in at the compost. That's been going quite well. We're 3 years into that now, and there's a couple of people actually bringing their kitchen composters. We supplied everybody with a kitchen composter from that grant as well, and we built several of those bins. And then later we started getting the black spinner bins, as they're called. Next. Okay, how much can you grow in a raised bed? The first year we put in a bed of cabbage plants, and we made a hood to fit over the bed, and we let them grow. We had a little get together in late July it was, and we had a little get together celebrate. We called it our garden party. It was late July, almost August, and we harvested the heads of cabbage from that bed, and the total in that wheelbarrow there was 48 heads of cabbage. So as you can see, you can grow quite a lot from one of these raised beds. Next. And then the following year, we added a barn, and then we got into the idea of getting some elevated beds. You can see the metal ones there. We purchased those from Princess Auto. They were 3 feet by 4 feet each. So we put 2 together on a ramp, and that was almost the equivalent of one of the 4x8 ground level beds. So we put these in for people who had issues with back problems and that sort of thing, and they could access them without having to bend over. Next. Oh yeah, we got a big blue picnic table in the middle there for people who come in and they just want to sit around and chat, and that's a big hit as well. Here's a shot of corner view of our entire garden with, and by the way, in the third year we added another 12 beds. We brought it up to 60, and then this is the garden in full bloom. This is the in the foreground. There is our long potato bed. There's another potato bed behind the barn, and all the other beds there. We got a strawberry bed as well, but all the other beds are operated by individual gardeners. Next. Oh yeah, we put in a pumpkin patch as well, and we added children's beds. You'll see those now and later. Yeah, they're the children's beds. You see those that are painted yellow, green. We took a full-size 4x8 bed and we divided it in half, and we assigned one each to children of a family. If there's one or two or three children, then that's fine. They occupy the bed. We put their names on them and gave them the different colors. And we put in a book. You can see our bulletin board there. This is where we keep everybody informed. All the names of the beds and the numbers of the beds are listed there so people can see who owns what. Um, okay, next. Yeah, that's another shot of the children's bed with there's tomato plants growing there, and some of them planted sunflower seeds, and they have sunflowers growing in their beds as well. And then following that, uh, we a lot of sunflower seeds all along the fences here in between the stakes just to brighten things up. And there's a couple of scenes there later on that you can see those sunflower seeds. And we got flower pots or flower beds, benches outside the barn and over by the greenhouse to just kind of brighten things up. Next. And here are some of the children harvesting some of the things from their beds. These were potatoes there, and they grow quite well. Next, this is a bird's eye view of our complex. Right in the middle there is our community center. In the top portion there is our community bed. We got all red stone in there, and it's all weed free. And then in the middle there behind the community center, we have a shallow pond with a boardwalk all the way around it, and people can just walk on that and exercise. And then, of course, there's the ball field where they play Little League and softball. Some of the adults play softball as well. Next. This is our garden last year. I think it was last year, and everything is in full bloom. There's beets and carrots and potatoes mostly, and then some people have garlic, and we had pumpkins, of course, up in the foreground there. You can't see them there now. Next, and this is our latest addition. We got a retractable garden hose. That's a 100-foot garden hose, retractable. They just went on sale at Princess Auto this week, and they're down from 189 to 138, $139. So that's a good investment because you can stretch these out and walk it back to the hose without any exertion. Otherwise, with the older hoses, these 100-foot hoses is quite a lot of. As you can see, there's one there on a reel. That one is kind of difficult to reel up and it gets tangled. But the new retractable hoses, I recommend them highly. Next. Yeah, there's the flowers that we planted along, and we made little flower beds there by the stakes, and we planted them in. And also you can see the black spinner type composters that we have available there. This is just like a compost drive through. You just drive up to the compost bin, open the lid, drop in your compost, and that's the way we've got it set up. Next. There's another scene. This is the view of our potato bed. That one is about 75 to 80 feet long and about 8 feet wide. And we can get in 4 rows of potatoes there. And over at the far end, you can see some higher plants. There's some sunflower plants, and growing underneath that would be the pumpkin patch that we put in. The community center is in the background. And there's a potato patch at the back of the barn. And this one is about 40 by 15 maybe. And we get quite a few potatoes that we can share with our gardeners. And we put a price on them when we harvest them, and we turn this back into purchasing seed and things for the following spring. And in the background there, you can see the where the boardwalk is, and the boardwalk goes around the pond here, and of course here's uh, potato bed number two. Next one, next slide, please. Yeah, there we go. That's a lot of, yeah. This is our strawberry bed. And behind that, in the back of that bed, we have rhubarb growing. And beyond that, when the ones with the higher plants, that's cucumbers. These are just the things that we grow there so that if somebody wants a cucumber, they can come and pick it off the vine and go and have it with their set. That's our cucumbers there. So this has become quite popular as well. Next, and this is our pumpkin bed, the first try. Uh, we grew those and we did a little something with them when we harvested them. You'll see that in the next slide, I think. Yeah, we took the pumpkins that we grew and we needed another couple, so we purchased a couple extra ones and we gave them to all the kids who operate the beds in the garden for Halloween. And yeah, let's see, we had some sunflowers. And I noticed that Leah's got one of our bunch of sunflowers in the presentation there for the toolkit. Next, this again is, oh yeah, container gardening. Over by the greenhouse there, you can see those containers. These were ice cream, local uh, at the convenience store, Grover's convenience store there. Everybody goes for knitting goods and all that, but they serve ice cream, and these ice cream containers are just big enough to put maybe 8 to 10 carrots, seeds, and potatoes. So I planted some carrots and potatoes, and they grew quite well through the summer. So you can put these out, put the triple mix in them, plant your seeds, and they will grow as long as you keep them watered. Everything is fine. So container gardening is pretty good as well. As a garden photo taken, I had this slide from last October, so we put in about $100,000 in grant money in our community garden, which goes to show that if you apply for the right kind of funding through New Horizon for Seniors, for example, and Eastern Wellness Coalition, that we also got a grant from Children's Beds, and they were gracious enough in giving us $1,000 to put these in. So there's lots of grant money out there. Just apply for it and good luck. Next. That's one of the latest photos of our garden with the layout, and it's about halfway through the summer. No, a little bit into July, I think, about the end of July last year. And that shows the beds that are spaced and arranged, and it's quite eye-catching. And that's the sunset that I shot just from my property here. That's the view I got every day when I get up out of bed before I go to the garden.
So I'm just gonna start this and hand it over to you, Julia, whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Thank you, Leah. Thanks for having me. And hello, everyone. And thank you, Albert. I have a full notepad with scribbled notes of inspiration. And I will say that every garden and even backyard that I visit, we're always drawing inspiration from. So I look forward to visiting the garden in Whiteway. So I'm Julia, and I'm one of many volunteers at the CBS Community Garden, and I also sit on the small steering committee of 7 members, and I'm one of the founding members. So I'm going to share how we got started, what our goals are, tell you about our 3 locations, and the ways to be involved, and just share a couple lessons learned. And this will just be a brief presentation, and I'll be sure to give time for lots of questions. So we got started in the spring of 2019 after there was a town hall meeting, just inviting those who were interested in setting up a community garden here in CBS. So that was a meeting that was called for by the town, and Food First was invited, and the toolkit was shared. The initial version of the toolkit was shared there. I see Sarah Crocker here on the call from Food First. So she was there to help facilitate that meeting. And I was one of 100, I think it was just under 100 people, 100 residents that showed up with interest. This region here in CBS is very large. It's 9 amalgamated communities, and we're divided up into 4. Well, typically we're not divided up, but there's 4 wards that are represented here. So because it was such a large group, we decided to divide up into our wards, and which was a pretty much even distribution, just to kind of discuss with those close by how to go about it. And we basically decided to appoint a couple people per ward to create a larger steering committee so that more decisions could be made. So we basically had about 8 people in that initial steering committee, with 2 people from each ward. And our town and many towns have like an ArcGIS map. So over on that top right corner, I've just kind of shown what that looks like, but it is really helpful because for us, we were able to see where all the town land was. And so we decided that we would choose one location to start off with, and just to really share efforts, and that we would choose a central location. So we decided to build our first community garden in Kelligrews. So in that first summer, we also had a late start, and the town supported us with prepping that land. And then we went to a local hardware store who donated the shed, and we made sure that we had a place where water could be hooked up, and the fire department actually hooked that up for us, and we built our first 12 beds. Next slide, please. So in our the first couple years were really focused on Gateway, and then which is in Kelligrews. That was our primary garden hub. And then those numbers are reversed, apologies, in 21 and 22. In 21, we were actually it was in 2020, we did a presentation about some of our efforts at the Kelligrews Garden, and the Rotary Club of Avalon Northeast was in attendance, and they were really eager to get involved. And so they supported us with establishing the Manuals Garden and Greenhouse in 2021 over beside the Manuals River Center. We also were able to expand the garden in Kelligrews over those 2 years by building a heritage fence, which is a really common type of fence in this area. And we had the green team engaged through Conservation Corps. So they helped us build a heritage fence, and we also established a fire pit area, and we built a stage with the support of the Lions Club, which you can see in the top left-hand corner there behind Betty. And the bottom right is the space over at Manuals, which required a lot of land prep. We built a trellis kind of gateway, and then we also worked with the existing space to install some different beds along with the greenhouse. Next slide, please. And then in end of 2022, we received a grant from the Community Healthy Living Fund, as well as from Trades NL, to expand our garden initiative. And so we decided to do a call out to see if there was any interest in a third location. And we had interest from the Ocean Glen neighborhood to establish a smaller neighborhood garden. So that was established also with support of the green team. And then over at our Kelligrews garden in Gateway, we established a fairy garden, which was in a treed area over to the kind of adjacent to the main garden. Next slide, please. So over those, over our first few years, we really had these common goals at our 3 garden locations. So to share garden knowledge and skills, to really use the like to share the community space and to ensure that everyone knew that it was there for them to use, and really to build friendships and new connections. And you can see a few pictures, like things like even like the fire pit, though it might not be directly related to gardening, although we've cooked a couple things over it. It really is just like a way to bring people together. As you can see, we engage a lot of different like scouts groups and like different ages, but then also like the seniors advisory group, different service clubs, and then of course residents who are involved as volunteers and also just come out to help with special events. So I'll just share a little bit more about each location. So our garden in Kelligrews, our main garden hub, it's behind the new CBS Arena, and overlooks Ned Nugent Field. So it's on a walking trail. It is accessible, but there is a small trail down from the arena. So there is lots of parking by the arena, but it is nice because there's a lot of other things to do around that area, including, lots of kids will join, with families, and then they might kind of take off down the hill and go to the park, and then or they're involved, but there's just lots of different amenities around. We have now 47 beds, including leased and communal. The majority of our beds in Gateway are leased. We have 36 leasees now. So we always do a call out every year for new leasees. We still have some available. Oops. And thank you, Leah. And then the rest are communal. We also have like a bunch of different communal areas. We have built a small apple orchard. So we have 14 apple trees. We have about 80 berry bushes, mostly raspberries, but then also blueberries. And then a whole variety of other berries, and then all the flower beds. And then we have, as I mentioned, a stage, but we had electricity installed last year with support of the town, which means that we can host other events. There was actually even a wedding hosted there a couple years ago, and we do host open mics, and anyone who wants to use that stage is welcome to. We have picnic tables in the fire pit, the fairy garden, and then we have a 3-unit compost bin, which I wish I had a picture of. We have a lot of pictures on our Facebook page showing the way that compost bin works. It's not as snazzy as Albert's, but it does do the trick, and it has like a chicken wire kind of lid with a frame that we just put over top of it with a rock to hold it down, but it does do the trick. Next slide, please. So then over at our Manuel's Garden and Greenhouse, it's more of a showcase garden. It's quite small. We only have 8 beds, but it is a really great, it's very visible, and very, there's 20 engaged volunteers, but it's also frequently visited because it is right beside the center. So in that, we don't have any leased beds, but it is a way to see a variety of different vegetables and sometimes fruits growing. In the greenhouse, it does enable us to start things a bit earlier in the season. We tend to focus on tomatoes, cucumbers, and we even tried these little kind of Arctic cantaloupe in there one year and had some success with those. And then we grow some peppers as well. We also have a rain collection system attached to the greenhouse, which is great. And we installed a share shed there last year for us to put kind of like some of the excess of the harvest in there, and then we'll post what's available. And we also have the same 3-unit compost bin at Mangles River. Next slide, please. Ocean Glen neighborhood garden is only leased beds. So there's 12 leased beds. These are kind of earlier pictures. I sadly need to update this slide with some newer pictures, but I didn't have them at the time. We didn't have water access here, unfortunately, and so we decided to bring in 2 water cubes, which the fire department generously fills up for us whenever we need them filled. Next slide, please. And then these are just some of the ways to be involved. We, beyond leasing a bed, like even with our leasees, we also invite them to support with planting, weeding, and watering. But then we also have a lot of folks that might not want a leased bed. They just join with volunteering to help with those, with all those garden activities. We host a lot of special events. For some of our special events, we actually need extra support. So we might engage like, yeah, the service clubs or the scouts, or maybe even sport. We've had a couple sports teams come out and help us with hosting. Using your unique talents. So with our steering committee, we do need some expertise, applying for grants, accounting, social media, photography, maybe even, music, if for open mic. Really, there's so many talents that can be used. We also have folks that are really interested in like nutrition and movement, and they've been able to share their gifts at the garden. Then we have the lease bed program at Gateway and Ocean Glen. Ways to be involved is just to use the space for those who are bringing together other people in other ways. And then also, there's a lot of engagement happening online, which is another beautiful thing about this community. So on our Facebook page, we have a lot of people sharing tips. That's just CBS Community Garden. You can find us on Facebook. We're not as active on Instagram, but we did have a work term student last year. And so she really helped us build more of a presence on Instagram. And in our early days, and especially amidst COVID, we did record a variety of amazing YouTube videos that are all available also on CBS Community Garden. There's a lot of expertise there, including like planning your garden, soil health, um, seed starting, among many others. I think there's maybe, yeah, okay. And the lessons learned, just briefly, is really to not be afraid to ask for help. We've been noticed, yeah, like even when we were, when Gateway was thriving and we were like, oh, I wish we had some place to start things a little bit earlier and to try tomatoes out. We literally just shared that a greenhouse would be amazing, and Rotary immediately was like, oh, we would love to help with that. Um, and also, of course, many other times when we need help with like an event, we just do a call out, or if we need extra help with opening and closing the greenhouse, we just share that on Facebook, and people always come forward. The fact that expertise surrounds you is just such an important thing to keep in mind. This is a rich agricultural area, so we've noticed that we really don't need to necessarily bring in facilitators. We just really we share where our needs of expertise lie. And we find that is really within our community. Of course, it's great to bring in expertise. Like I know Food First has been a huge support to us, especially in those initial days, but it is such a good thing to remember. To take time to thin out like some of our garden, like especially with carrots and beets, like sometimes our beds are just really stuffed to the brim to a point that we're only growing tiny little carrots, but when we thin them out, they grow so much bigger. So I guess that's just like a little practical tip. And to weed, because it always pays off. Nourish the soil. So we really try to bring in expertise to like look at our soil health. I've learned about gardening through over the years since we started, but I don't naturally have green thumb, and I definitely didn't have any gardening experience before joining the steering committee. Yeah, I'm realizing the value in enriching soil with compost, but then also testing your soil, adding amendments, and just welcoming expertise there. And then lastly, just finding intentional ways to share the harvest. Something like a share shed is great, but then also, we have found that having beds with like, just several communal carrot beds is such a nice way when you invite like kids in to come. They can each harvest their own, maybe each take 4 carrots, for example, and just to be intentional about how that harvest is shared. We also have had quite a bit of luck doing like some group canning, and then, sharing pickles around or sharing bottled beet, and yeah, just to be thoughtful about how that harvest is shared. And I believe that might be it. Is that my last slide? Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
that,
you.
that looks like the
Sorry, I kind of
last.
flew through it, but just want to keep time for questions.
No, totally amazing. Thank you both Julia and Albert for sharing all that information. I'm just gonna